Hello everyone, welcome back. Can you believe it's the last installment for Hauntober? The time has just flown this month. I mean, for a year that's dragged on for multiple decades at this point, the fact that we have a month that actually feels shorter than a month is kind of weird. Am I the only one who feels that way? Let me know. So, our last installment for our Hauntober series this year is Alpha's Halloween Virgin by Casey Morgan. Try and make sure I get a good shot of it. So, and I know that you would think just by the name or the title of the story that it's just an excuse for straight up smut. There are a couple of smutty-ish scenes in there, but surprisingly not as many as you would think, even for, any other more mainstream stories, which was kind of surprising. So let's get on with it, shall we? So there aren't really too much in the way of trigger warnings. There's like a few minor assault type scenes, but nothing that we've seen on the scale of some previous stories. It's really just kind of like what you would see as like a minor action scene in any other story. I hope that was descriptive enough. I don't know if it is. So they didn't really utilize last names too much in this story from what I can remember. So we have Tabitha and Cameron. So Tabitha has this obsession with werewolves to the point that she buys werewolf erotica. And, even when all of her friends growing up were very much into Twilight, she was always about the werewolves. Very different that way. But another thing that sets her apart from everybody else is that she's been raised by very, very, very strict parents. Like, they're super conservative, super religious to the point where everything that could even hint at magic is considered evil. So probably not watching like Harry Potter. Probably couldn't even watch stuff like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty when she was a kid because it's that level of extreme in that house. And her parents are so overbearing that even though she's 20, almost 21, her bedroom still looks the same as it did when she was about 5 years old. And she's not really allowed to change it. She's not allowed to dress a certain way. She's not allowed to wear makeup. She's not allowed to do really anything. Because the rule is as long as you're living in this house, you're going to follow our rules. And she's going to college and she can't afford to live on her own right now. And to be honest, she was always kind of raised to feel like she couldn't live on her own. Like it was kind of ingrained in her psyche to an extent. So I think to an extent, even though she could leave, she felt like she couldn't, if that makes sense. So her birthday is on Halloween, and her parents have always taken great pains to make sure she never goes out to do anything. Like when she was a kid, she couldn't go trick-or-treating. When she was a teenager, she wasn't allowed to go to like a Halloween dance at school. I know they probably don't do those anymore, but back in my day and before, we used to. Every year for her birthday, it was always being at home with her parents. They get to do some family fun activities, probably like board games. Her father would have like a very fiery sermon about how horrible Halloween is. And then they would have cake, ice cream in moderation. And she could open her gifts before going to bed. And that was usually about it. So this year, she has decided she's going to do something different for her birthday. And she and her friend get tickets for a Halloween rave. However, the woman who was selling at the ticket booth didn't want to sell tickets to her because she technically wasn't 21 yet. So even though she was going to be 21 the day of the rave, here it is the day before the rave, but she's not 21 on that particular day, so she refuses to sell her the tickets. And this is when she meets Cameron. Cameron very much embodies everything about this mysterious werewolf that she's come across in her dreams. Same skin tone, same eyes, basically identical. It is the same guy. Come to find out, he is in fact really a werewolf. They are mates, and she has subconsciously been calling to him in her dreams, and that is why she's able to recognize him. They hint that they were together in a past life and that she was taken away possibly by magic. It's not really 100% explained. And he's had to live throughout the centuries without her, constantly looking for her. And now that he's found her, you know, he wants to make sure that they don't part again. And again, there are things that aren't really explained about how it occurred. You find out that her parents aren't really her parents. They found her in the woods as a puppy, crying, and were probably massively surprised when she turned into a human girl. They raised her as their own, basically trying to browbeat her nature back. You know, here she is, just about 21, and she's never had any inclination that she was a werewolf because of how tightly they kept her reined in. So here she is now, going off with the man of her dreams, and her parents catch up with them again. And they've gone full batcrap crazy loony. Now, it's hinted at that they have some sort of magic themselves through a twisted variation of faith, and that they were intentionally keeping her from him. So again, it's not explained how she was taken from him in the past life. It is not explained how it is that the parents were able to restrain her and contain her nature all these years. It is not in any way explained how they knew who he was and how they were able to do the things they were able to do, because they got some crazy stuff going on towards the last third to a half, we'll say, of the story. And they got to a point where they felt that he had defiled her, and so now the only way to save her soul is to destroy her. The girl that they've raised since she was a baby. So, needless to say, this doesn't go over too well. And she comes into her nature, and she's able to fight her parents off and go off with the man that she loves. And they, you know, it's basically very heavily implied that it's a happily ever after. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. I actually have no problem with the overall concept of the story. I thought it was quite interesting, actually. I kind of wish that I liked it more, though. I didn't particularly care for this author's way of portraying things. She has a way of focusing a little heavily on certain things while ignoring other things. She plays up the fact that Tabitha is extremely innocent. Again, she was raised by parents who wouldn't let her really grow up. So she is very naive, and she is also very immature in the way she handles things. Anytime anybody doesn't 100% agree with her or implies that maybe she needs to back away, like with the woman that wouldn't sell her the tickets for the rave because she wasn't 21. Well, that's legit. I mean, she wasn't 21. Legally, the woman could have gotten in trouble for selling her the ticket. And so she describes this woman as having a cruel smile. She smiled cruelly at me. If her parents punished her, it was they cruelly smiled at me while they sent me wherever. It was always cruelty that they did this to her. It was never that we have a difference of opinion. It's always just they're cruel and they're mean. Like if you've seen the original It miniseries with Tim Curry, and there's a scene where the adult version of the girl, Everly, it's been a while since I watched that. The adult version of her, thinking about everything going on, and she looks up and she's like, why is it so mean? You know, like she's still a child. It's very much how Tabitha behaves, but it's like almost all the time. Cameron is extremely obsessed with finding his mate, understandably so. But they're focusing on trying to portray the fact that he's centuries old. And so when it's his thoughts or what he's saying, it's always, if he's talking to Tabitha, it's always my darling, it's my love, it's this and that, which is fine. But it's, in both cases, it's taken to the extreme. There were times where his character was thinking or speaking where it was such a flourish, trying to make him sound more, just like more profound, more elegant, more charming, what have you. But it was done in such a way that there were a few sentences I had to go back and reread because I couldn't understand what she was saying, because they added so many things to it. And sometimes less is more. You know, I mean, that stands true with stories just as much as and books and movies just as much as it does with like makeup and paintings and things like that. There is a balance. And don't get me wrong, I'm not someone who tends to be super critical on stories. I've enjoyed some very trash stories, and this one just wasn't enjoyable to me. It was too much focus on things that didn't need so much focus and not enough focus on things that needed more focus. Like, again, I already went over previous plot holes, like not understanding how the parents came in, how they found her, how they raised her, and all that stuff. But there's like this side story with his brother who doesn't like the human world because their mother died. She got hit by a car on an intersection or a freeway or whatever when she was in wolf form. And he despises all of the human world for that, which, I mean, okay, kind of harsh, but I get it, I guess. But at one point he mentions to Cameron that, you know, if anything happens, I'm not going to back you up and the pack won't be there, even though Cameron's the alpha. And later on, it gets to a point where he realizes, yeah, they're really not coming. And my brother doesn't have my back. But it in no way addresses anything else. In no way does it address a large sum of money that the brother had to go get for Cameron that apparently is still in the brother's possession. It doesn't account for what's going to happen with the brother now, because technically Cameron is the alpha. And he essentially took over the pack. There's a lot of what ifs. There's just a lot of story left open and a lot of plot holes. So I thought it was an interesting concept for a story. I wish she had fleshed out more with character development. I wish she had fleshed out more with the actual story and other characters' involvement in the story. But I could still see how other people or other readers would enjoy it. It was just too much was left open. And even that wouldn't have been too bad, except it's very clear she could have done it because she was putting all this time into developing things to an, I would say almost, not quite, but almost extreme amount. And it just was very imbalanced for me. Like, I can read the trashiest book or the crappiest book ever, but if it's got a halfway decent balance, I'm usually okay. I've read some really trash books, I'm not gonna lie, but this one, it wasn't trash, but it was just, it didn't flow. It was bland. I previously stated on my last video that I gave you a warning that this was a book I'd previously DNF'd, and now I remember why I DNF'd it. I hit the part where I DNF'd it before, and I was this close to coming on here and be like, I couldn't finish it. I could not finish it. I got to a point where I had to start watching some comedy videos on YouTube, and I'd watch a video, I'd read a chapter. I'd watch a video, I'd read a chapter. I couldn't get through it any other way. Maybe that's my ADD because it wasn't interesting me, but it was just not good. Like I said, I give it points for the fact that good premise. I'm rambling, sorry. So I do give it some points, and I do give the author credit for some points in it. So I'm going to give this one a 1.8 stars out of 5. I think I have it posted as 2 stars on Goodreads. I don't really recommend it. There's plenty of other werewolf shifter stories out there that are far more fleshed out, that are far more well thought out, in my opinion. I'm actually contemplating doing a series by Julie Trutell in the new year. I have a series set up for next month. I already have some of my holiday books set up for December, so I'm thinking I might do that series in January. If you would like me to do an entire shifter series, well, I won't do the entire series, but I'll start off on it anyways, then let me know in the comments down below. And then I'm going to be shooting a short trailer or preview. I guess that would be the correct term, as preview for my next series, and it'll be coming up this weekend, so look out for that. You all have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a fabulous Halloween, and as always, stay safe and careful. And I love you all, and I hope to see you at the next time. Bye-bye.